So when you think of great phones, you probably wouldn't think, "Oh my gosh, I got this phone for free," or "This phone only costs 180 bucks or 120 bucks." You wouldn't think of phones today being that good, and that is becoming the trend, at least from where I sit. Because I'm all about you getting the best bang for your buck, or a good deal on a phone, and we're going to continue that trend leading off from the years to come. So this is the Alcatel 3V 2019 edition. Now, I want to start by saying, before I get into this full review, I think it's kind of strange that they kept the name the same and added 2019. I think they probably should have changed this naming, because if you try to search Alcatel 3V, you're going to get a different phone altogether. If it looks completely different. So you have to put 2019 in order to come up with this phone right here. So that out of the way. This phone is offered by Metro PCS currently, and we're just going to get into a full review of this. Nothing fancy, just a discussion video, forewarning, and possibly showing you a few things on the device. But ultimately, after using this phone for the time that I've had it, it's good. It's a solid device, and I don't have many complaints, but I do have a few. But let's get into a full review here. So we'll start with the design and hardware of this device. It's got, obviously, as you can see here, I got it loaded up, a 6.7-inch display. Now, obviously, this is a custom launcher that I'm using here. I'm not using the stock launcher, not because it's bad or anything, but I just preferred this launcher. And that's a good thing about Android. You can actually go in and change the launcher on devices if you so choose to. Default apps, and then you go to launcher, and then here is how the phone would look to you without the launcher. So not much difference. I'm just using a skin that I like with and I can change the icon packs. That's the only difference. But this is the stock launcher, and you shouldn't be able to tell too much difference except for the shape of the icons ultimately. So the 6.7-inch display. You've got a rear camera setup. I believe the rear camera is 16, and you get a 5 megapixel for a depth sensor. And then the front camera is a 8 megapixel camera, which is really solid. This phone records in 1080p. That's going to be your max resolution. But it, in fact, it does have a really nice set of cameras. You got the dual camera setup on the back there, LED flash fingerprint reader on the back there, and then you've got a speaker outlet here. This has stereo speakers, one in the earpiece and then one down low, which is really sweet. Something you can't see, but have to be told. Then you've got the power button and volume rocker on the right side of the phone. A little bit of branding here. And that's pretty much it. You got your SIM tray over there, headphone jack, and IR blaster, microphone there, and obviously an additional microphone on the bottom. So obviously the footprint of this device is big, and so the hardware needs to be good. Well, this hardware is solid, but it's obviously really slippery, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about right off the rip. It's a slippery device, so and it attracts fingerprints. So if that annoys you, just try to find a case. Now, I personally have not looked for any cases because the phone is so affordable. I really didn't care if I dropped it or not, and I could just buy another one if I wanted to. And plus, I like the shimmer that this phone kind of lets off. You kind of see that. I think it looks really cool. The color isn't black and it's not blue. It's kind of a gray black blue, I guess. I don't know. A gray and black mixture. It's really sweet. It's a really nice combination. But the hardware, it's decent. It's not the best hardware. It's the plasticky feel is not my favorite. The slippery back, obviously, is not my favorite. But for the price, what can you do? So software and features is another thing I wanted to address on the phone. The software on here is actually pretty fast. Now this phone is I'll get into the performance later, but it's not running a Snapdragon processor, which to my surprise, I was like, wow, this phone really runs good. But the software on here mimics stock Android. I mean, it's not bad software. Let's be clear here. It's not a bad piece of software, and it's just a light skin from Alcatel, and their skin is getting really, really light, which is a positive thing, because at first glance you probably couldn't tell that this wasn't stock Android. And then you start to look at some of the icons and you think, okay, the camera app looks a little different, or the Gmail icon looks a little different, just certain things. But overall, man, you cannot tell that this is pretty much not stock Android, but it does work. So this is running Android 9 out of the box, and I don't think it even has the latest security patch update. But that doesn't matter with me with a phone like this, because I think people who buy this device, you're not going to be so much checking for software updates. You probably won't even be concerned if you don't get an update. But it is running Android 9 out of the box, and then that's a good thing. So at least it's running Android 9 for the price. And because there are phones that are launching that don't even have Android 9, and Android 10 has been out for quite some time. So just keep that in mind. But the software and speediness of the device, it's impressive, man. I don't have a complaint. It's good. What more can you ask for? It has nothing to do with price at this point. This is just a nice, speedy, phone. To my surprise, I was actually really surprised at how fast the phone was for what's inside. You get a little bit of lag there because it's trying to load up things on the timeline, but nobody scrubs through their timeline like that. I don't think people do that. They just go to the post that they want, and that's it. But that can happen on any device. So this phone performance and software, it is running a MediaTek processor at 2 gigahertz, and it's the Helio P22, but it has 3 gigs of RAM. So that's a huge plus for this phone, being as though it has a Helio P22. It helps. Now, again, in that demonstration, you see me scrubbing the timeline of Twitter. Some people will blow that way out of proportion, like, oh my God, it's horrible, the lag. Well, in day-to-day use, I don't experience any lag. I mean, it's just not a laggy phone at all. Because again, I don't scroll through my timeline like that. I open the timeline and then I go to what I need. Like, boom, okay, I go to this post and I open this post up, and this is how I view my timeline. It's strange, that people consider a certain lag would be me going in and out of applications, and it's taking a very long time to load the applications. That's what I would contribute lag to. But since this phone has 3 gigs of RAM, the performance, the features, the functionality, it's there for me. I don't have a problem with it. Yeah, it's good. The software is good. The performance is good. Everything is nice on there. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on here is the battery life. The battery life on here should last you for quite some time. Now, I've been on and off with this device. It's not like a regular phone for me, but as you can see here, 46 hours is the last time that I charged it, and I've got about 4 hours of screen on time with 55% left. And honestly, the majority of that is multimedia and social media, emails, things like that. So this phone can definitely do what today's market wants it to do. And today's market wants it to do social media, media consumption. And if you're buying a big phone like this, you obviously want a big canvas. And that's something that you should take note of, because I know when you get to the store, you're going to probably test it out. You're going to say, wow, this is huge, but it's really thin though. It's a really nice feeling phone in the hand. So anyway, yeah, the battery life on here is stupendous. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. You should be able to go for quite some time with this particular phone, man. The battery is 4,000 milliamps. They're claiming 24 hours of talk time and 400 hours of standby time. And when you think about that, that's a lot. I mean, you got a 720p display with a MediaTek Helio P22 with 3 gigs of RAM. That's a good combination with a 4,000 milliamp hour battery inside. That's impressive. So bear that in mind. And like I said, at least it's running Android 9. That definitely helps too. So, battery life is going to be what it is. Now, the cameras, let me just find something to take a picture of, just to kind of show you. I'll grab a couple of things here. The camera on here is extremely impressive. I mean, this camera is great. I've already put up tons of videos on here. As you can see, it has HDR and also has portrait mode. It does its thing for what it is. I mean, you look at the quality from that. That's decent for what you're looking at. And then you go to the other photos. These are some good, solid camera. Look at the detail on this part of my mouse. You can actually see it. And there's not a lot of phones out there that have cameras like this in this price range. There are some out there, but a lot of them are not worthy of getting the title of, wow, that's a good camera. This phone is. So, you couple together the screen, the performance, the battery, the cameras, the price, and what do you have? You have a winner. You just can't beat phones like this when you're in the market for. This would be a great phone for your wife, your daughter, your son, your mother. It just can check so many boxes, meaning the battery life, I think, to people is probably at the top of their list, and maybe camera second. I'm not sure, but based on the way people speak to me sometimes, battery life is great for is at the top of their list, and then they also need a good camera every now and then. You know, most people aren't checking for the resolution of the screens. You know, they just want to know that it's a big, beautiful screen, and this screen gets plenty bright for what it is. That is a really nice bright. Let me change the background too, because it gives you some justice when you have the right background on there. It's punchy, vibrant. Here's one that's really vibrant. That's a vibrant background, so it really shows you how nice the screen is. It's a good phone, man. I mean, I don't have many complaints. Just the build quality is on the lesser side, but you know, what do you want for this price tag? You know what I'm saying? So if you're on Metro PCS, if you're not on Metro PCS, I would definitely tell you, man, pour it in and get this. If you're thinking about switching to Metro PCS, this is a phone that I can highly recommend. Is it the best phone? No. Is it the top dog? No. It's a great phone at a great price, and if you can get this free, son, I highly recommend that you grab this free with a port in. It just makes sense. Yeah. So it's your man Jay. I wanted to give you guys a full review of this device. I've actually been using this for quite some time now, so I felt like it was time to give you a full review. And it deserves it. This phone is really hot, man. I mean, the only downside that I could find for personal, you know, personally for me, would be that slippery back. And it's a little on the wide side, but you know, hey, it is what it is. You got to consider what you're getting into. Play with it at the store for a little bit, get the feel in hand. Ask for one outside of the little brackets that they have. See if they have the demos where you can actually hold it, even if it's a dummy unit. I got big hands, obviously, so I'm gonna tell you that this is a big phone, but it feels okay. But you might say, you know what, Jay, this is a little too big for me. I always got to use it with two hands. And reality is, this is a two-handed device, so keep that in mind. That's a full review for you guys, man, of the Alcatel 3V 2019 edition. I don't know why they do that to us, but that's what it is. It's your man Jay. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video. God bless and take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video.